hatred. There has been a rise in the last 12 months or so, and I think the whole House will join in saying we must meet any rise in hatred in whatever form it is, including Islamophobia. We are working with others to take this forward, and I'm happy to meet with him further on that.
Brendan O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I was in South Lochaber at the weekend speaking to pensioners who still cannot understand why the Prime Minister chose to take away their winter fuel payment. And one of them remembered from just 2 years ago the then Leader of the Opposition saying, "Looking ahead to winter is frightening. I've met pensioners who have no idea how they'll heat their home." And she asked me to ask you, Prime Minister, whatever happened to that guy?
Mr Speaker, as he knows from previous answers, we've taken tough decisions in this budget to deal with the situation that we faced. Because of that, we've stabilised the economy, which means we can commit to the triple lock. Because of the triple lock, pensioners will be better off. But I'll take no lectures from his party about running the economy. Their record in Scotland is terrible.
Juliet Kendall.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I welcome the establishment of a flood resilience task force because in my constituency of Broxtowe there has been unprecedented flooding that has affected many of my constituents. There's rising concern and significant financial insecurity for many who face distress, trauma and fear in their own homes. May I ask the Prime Minister what other measures he's taking to improve flood resilience and support that will be available to my residents and my constituents in Broxtowe?
I do know the dreadful impact that flooding has had on her constituency, including with Storm Henk earlier this year. The last government left flood defences in the worst condition on record. We are investing £2.4 billion in flood resilience over the next 2 years, and we've launched a flood resilience task force to coordinate national and local flood preparation to better protect communities and our economy. Rather than heckling, they might take a reflection on the record that they left.
James McMurdo.
Mr Speaker, the residents of my constituency in South Basildon and East Thurrock are facing a triple whammy of increased council tax of 50%, reduced public services and a borrowing on £1 billion worth of emergency funding, which is 1% above base. That 1% is £10 million approximately per year that's going to the Treasury that could be spent on frontline services in Thurrock. Will the Prime Minister commit to reducing that rate so the money can go where it belongs?
Well, I thank him for his question. The last government made life even more difficult for councils needing exceptional financial support by charging a premium on borrowing. That was the wrong decision, which had a huge impact on vital services, and we will be taking a different approach. We're delivering in real terms increase on core public, on government spending power, and that will benefit his constituents.
Sir John Joseph.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition took time at her party's conference to say that a little bit of adversity in life is good for people's mental health. That approach clearly did not work for the 2 million people who are stuck on mental health waiting lists because of the last Tory government. Can the Prime Minister commit to tackling mental health waits in the NHS?
I think we've obviously recognised the devastating impact that mental health problems have on people's livelihoods, and Lord Darcy's report showed that waiting lists are far too long, and there's a shocking decline in mental health in children under the last government. Giving mental health the attention it needs, we're doing by recruiting 8,500 mental health workers, much needed, and of course reforming the Mental Health Act, which in my view is long overdue.
Alex Blower.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Chalk stream rivers are rare with a unique ecology. Most of them are in the UK and 2 are in my constituency of North East Hampshire. Last year, chalk stream rivers were hit with 14,000 hours of sewage discharges, and the previous government did nothing despite calls from my honourable friend, the MP for Chesham and Amersham. Will the Prime Minister introduce a special protection for our chalk stream rivers?
Well, I thank her for raising this, and we are committed to protection and restoration of unique chalk streams. She's right, the destruction of our waterways should never have been allowed, and we've announced immediate action to end this disgraceful behaviour. New powers with tougher penalties, including fines, banning bonuses and bringing criminal charges against those who persistently break the law. We've also launched a water commission. Thank you.
White.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the Prime Minister's leadership on an international scale to smash the criminal gangs that smuggle people across the border. This Labour government having returned over 9,000 people with no right to be in the UK, which is 20% more than the party opposite. Will the Prime Minister confirm that he will continue this trend and smash the gangs that profit from people's misery?
Yes, the last government lost control of our borders. And in the first 6 months of this year, small bite arrivals were up 18% on the same period last year. They spent £700 million on returning, 4 volunteers to Rwanda. Since coming into office, we've returned 9,400 people with no right to be here. They talked about getting the flights off. We've got the flights off, including the single biggest deportation flight. And so that's why we're investing another £75 million in smashing the gangs. We're absolutely determined to have a serious response to a serious question, not a gimmick that achieved absolutely nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ensuring every child has access to a great education, I'm sure, is a priority for all across this House, and I welcome the announcements for extra funding for children with SEND at the budget. The Chancellor, in her speech, announced a £2.3 billion increase in core spending and £1 billion for SEN. However, the budget document states that they are, in fact, both from the same pot, announced twice, which is correct.
The Chancellor made this absolutely clear in the budget. Putting that huge investment into special educational needs, it's an issue that is of concern across this House, because I think all members are recognising the appalling record of the last government. It's been raised from his own benches, the appalling state of SEN. So I'm very proud of the money that this government is putting in where the last government failed.
Mr. Strathern.
Mr. Speaker, there's not a week that goes by where my office isn't contacted by young people and their families who are being let down by the shocking state of SEND provision locally. Across my constituency, I'm trying to work across party lines to push both Central Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire Council to do more. And I welcome the fantastic extra news in the budget about additional funding and subsequent announcements about increased support for mainstream settings. But we know we're going to need to do more. So can the Prime Minister assure my constituents that we won't shy away from the whole system reform needed to finally ensure every young person has the support they need to thrive in school?
No, we won't shy away from that challenge, because it's far too important for the children and the families and the communities involved, and therefore we will not only put the necessary money in, but we will look at the reform that is needed alongside the investment, and we will finally fix the problem, another of the problems that we've inherited from the lot opposite.
Final question, Sir Alex Shelbrooke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 29th of November, this House will be asked to consider at second reading one of the most consequential pieces of legislation to this country's make-up. But I am generally approaching this with an open mind, but have many concerns. And what concerns me, Prime Minister, is the short space of time on that day. So could I ask you, Prime Minister, that before we get to the 29th of November, that the government will make a commitment that we can have 2 days, 16 hours of protected time on the floor of the House in government time, that we can examine and debate in this House the report stage, so that many of the arguments we are concerned about may be able to be brought out then, because otherwise, Prime Minister, people like myself may decline a second reading over fear that we may not get to be able to debate these issues in full.
Well, I'm grateful to him for raising this issue. It is obviously an important issue, an important vote, and I know that there are strongly held views on both sides of the debate across this House, and that's why it will be a free vote. I think every member needs to decide for themselves how they will vote on it. It's a free vote. I do think there's sufficient time allocated to it, but it is an important issue.
Right, that completes Prime Minister's questions. Let the front benches. No points forward to come after your accused statements, which you well know. Mr. Holder.